Good afternoon, traders. This is Christian from Hertz Tribeca Trade Group, and this is your end of day market recap for Thursday, August 10th. Well, the price action not too stellar today. I will go through that in this video. Before I do, risk disclaimer in front of you. Everything that we're going through is for information purposes only, not giving any advice or recommendations. Please read the full risk disclaimer there. So, the goal of this video is I will basically try to give you a view of whether or not this is a good buy the dip opportunity of what we're seeing, or if it makes sense to have more patience right now and wait until more setups are being shown right now. So I think that's the first part of what I'm looking to accomplish in this video. Let's get right to the themes of the day. Yes, it was a whippy day. We had what many people were watching or paying attention to, which is the CPI report, which came in basically in line with expectations. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on the CPI report. Don't forget, we do get the PPI report tomorrow. But again, what's interesting about some of these reports is that it's interesting what market participants are going to do. I don't think that being that it's August 10th, that traders really wanted to stick out their neck ahead of an inflation report, because there are some actions that can happen based on whether or not inflation goes up or goes down. So it just seems like investors are being some of those bigger investors are being conservative, considering the time of the year, and some of the other conditions that are going on right now in the market. So whippy day, it seems like bottom line, the market started up today again. And it was another opportunity to kind of sell into strength. That's something that I've learned over time as a trader, is that when the market is up, is rallying into the open, when there's a gap up in the morning, I try to take some profits if I have trades if I have trades on the book, which I did today, and I was a net seller in the morning. I did look at some things and looked at a couple of things in terms of putting on a starter position, but those really didn't pan out, right, as the market just started to drift lower for the most of the day. So next thing I have here is watch your levels and your stops. I mean, that's important right now. The important thing is, whenever there's a dip in the market, is to basically just try not to get caught up in it, and try not to overtrade, and try not to basically have a drawdown with the market. That's the goal, right? It's one of the hardest things I would say to do in trading, right? I think at some point everybody can make money in the market, right? But what the hard part is not giving that money back when the market is not in a particular great environment, as we're seeing so far in August. So I think that's important, and watching your levels and knowing where you may want to add risk or cut risk, right? Planning these things out ahead of time is important. All right, so let's go through the technicals, and then we can kind of determine or try to determine, right? Because again, we don't know what tomorrow is going to bring, but we like to figure out if we're seeing any confirmation, just as I went through. And I would also advocate going through yesterday's video, if you hadn't, the end of day video, because I really talked about like a process, right, of what we're looking for when we're moving down like this, because we are now sitting like right at the bottom of value. We know that this is a position of weakness, considering that we're below these short-term moving averages. We don't really have any confirmation. Every time that we try to rally here a little bit, it gets faded, right? So here's the 5-minute for the day. Notice that we did take out one of these virgin point of controls, which is from, I think, a couple days ago, right, back in here, right? And if you don't know what virgin point of control is, go to my pinned tweet, or I don't know what it's called on X these days, but my twin post, I don't know, my pinned post, I should say. But regardless, like, that was the high of the day, which came right at 10 o'clock in the morning. And then it was just basically a slippery slope. One thing that was somewhat positive is we made a little bit of, we got out of this pattern just for the day. Yeah, we're still making lower highs, so I can't really even say that, but that's lower highs and further if you look on the 1 hour chart. So that's, I think what you're going to hear a lot in the next, maybe today, tomorrow, is you're going to hear a lot about the 50-day moving average. And if the 50-day moving average gets taken out, you're going to hear a lot about that. And I'm kind of, one of my favorite follows on Twitter or X, like I said, whatever it is nowadays, is Helene Meisler. She's really good at her analysis. She's very objective, and she talks quite a bit about when everybody's watching one of these moving averages, and people really get worried or unsettled once like a 50-day moving average or a 200-day moving average price breaks that. Sometimes it's actually, I'll put a positive spin on it. It's not such a bad thing because it really gets, people will have that in their focus, right? Once it gets broken, it does wash a lot of people out of the market, and it kind of resets the sediment. And sometimes that bad news could actually be something good. But again, we need to wait for confirmation, because this 50-day moving average, if we do break it, then there's a possibility that we could drift all the way down here to this 44.09 level. Possible, right? It's still far away. The virgin point of controls, I tend to watch them more closely once price is very close to it. Take, for example, right? This is also Qs, right? Notice that I drew this trend line in here, just making sure that you could see that we made a lower high here, right? Which I see this in a lot of charts, by the way, right? So this also broke the value area. So again, position of strength or weakness, position of weakness, right? We came up and tested it, right? We failed. We cannot get there today, right? So again, that's called a rejection, right? And this is also actually did break. I think it's right at the 50-day moving average. So you're kind of splitting hairs, deciding if that broke the 50-day moving average. But this is a closer VPOC, and I think if there's some negative price action tomorrow, I think that there's a good chance that this virgin point of control gets taken out. And then basically what I would be watching there is whether or not buyers are going to come in, all right, and think that it's a good dip to start buying. All right, so that's one thing. We could do this exercise for IWM too. I'll go through this really quickly. This is still holding up, even though this was weak today. Is still holding inside the value area, but still, it is still in a position of weakness below these short-term moving averages. Even though for now it's holding the bottom of value and the 50-day moving average. One other thing that I use this quite a bit. Is the 1 hour charts, and I did put this together just as like as a dashboard that you could see, because it gives you a snapshot. And going from left to right, this is SPY, Qs, IWM, and diamonds, right? And I went over this because I thought that we could have a bounce this morning. But it really becomes, once we have a market bounce, is there going to be follow through from the bounce, and are we going to change direction, right? We know that we've been trending lower since the beginning of the month, but the question is, I think that's everybody's mind is that going to change, right? So we had perfect, things to watch around 10 o'clock this morning, and this is exactly what I put in the trading room, but obviously the price, and I actually put this on Twitter too, so you can follow along there. But I basically put arrows on here, and I think I have it here so you could see. Yeah, so here's the post, and of course I put more information in our Tribeca Trade Group trading room. I put more explanation, but at least I just put out the charts so that people can see them on Twitter without any real explanation. But, I thought that the S&P was coming into an important area, which is this 200 period moving average. So this is right at like 10 o'clock this morning. The Qs I thought could actually go up a little bit further before they hit resistance. That didn't happen. It didn't get that high. And then IWM hit the bottom of value resistance, right where it kind of needed to turn, right? And then of course the diamonds, right, the Dow, which has been the strongest recently, and this hit the top of value resistance, right? So at top of value. So again, there's nothing wrong with these things like reaching those levels, but that's where the heavy lifting has to happen. That's where buyers really have to continue to push and turn the market, right? Which will eventually happen, right? But today that wasn't the case. So here's how we, so rejection, right? We almost got to there, but rejected, right? Rejected, right? Rejected. So all four of those, getting rejected at particular pivot points, right? So not one of them kind of made it through, and you could say, oh wow, this is going to be something interesting to watch, right? So I think that's very easy to this isn't hard analysis to kind of come up with a conclusion that all of these, you just have to have the right tools to basically be able to see that. And that's what the value areas do. And that's what our setups really provide, so that we can make easier decisions. And that was kind of the decision today. That's why I, finished positive for the day today. I didn't really do any major chasing. I did a lot of looking at things and saying, hey, this is interesting, because it's tough, because I do pay attention to the tape, and we saw a boatload of call buying, right? And about like 15 different names today, right? Like ServiceNow. We saw put selling in Microsoft, which again makes me kind of watch things, but so on and so forth. But none of those trades really worked, or they may not work quite yet. Nvidia, we see call buying in that name just about every morning, right? And these things are kind of interesting. This had some strength for about, again, same thing, for about 20 minutes. Look at where this closed for the day, right? That's again not a position of strength, right? Closing back below the 50-day moving average, right? And it's important. Sometimes you could see these things in the middle of the day or earlier in the day, and it looks quite good, but the closing print is the most important thing, right? Because you get the full picture at the close. All right, so that's basically it. I think I'm just going to leave with a couple bigger thoughts here. Is that, yes, I don't really see any confirmation that that's the bottom is in for what we're doing right now. I think that there's a chance that we could spill lower tomorrow. So I'm positioned more defensively right now, and I think overall it's important. Like, if you're having a tough time in this market, number one, a word that we keep saying, and I think is important right now, is just to be patient. Their market dips like this all the time, right? This is actually quite normal considering the run that we've had. I mean, look at the numbers that we still have. Like, even though some things, like, which is pretty astounding, right? ARK is down 14% month to date. The IBD 50 ETF is down over 10%, right? But these things are still positive for the year. And the Qs, even though down about 4% this month, is still up 38%. So it's quite normal to have these periods, right? So patience is the key, and wait for some confirmation, in my opinion, right? Don't go out on a limb, right? You don't want to be the first buyer in. You want to wait for in my opinion, you want to wait for the institutions, right, to start to buy, because those are the ones who are really going to be able to kind of make a difference and push the markets around in different directions. So that is it. Take a deep breath and just realize, like, this is part of the normal course of action in terms of the market going up and then the market pulling back from time to time. And it's doing it right when it's a very common period of the year to do that. We know that and I think if you've been watching my videos or someone else's, you probably have heard that August is not an easy month to trade. So it's living up to history. All right, guys, have a great night, and thanks for watching the video, and I'll see you tomorrow in the trading room.